Andre Williams. I work with the HIV unit in St. Kitts.
Good morning, Judy Nisbet, Clinical Care Coordinator, NEFAS.
Good morning, Karen Brotherson, Focal Point, Antigua Barbuda.
Good morning, Harriet Kane, Ministry of Health IT, St. Vincent.
Good morning, Janita St. John, Aid Secretariat in Antigua and Barbuda.
All right, those who want to introduce themselves, I think would have done so. So today we are looking at the administration module. As an overview, for those who are new, we have the case-based surveillance system, which consists of two systems and an API. The systems are the virtual training workshop portal, which is the place you logged on to see your schedule and be able to join the training workshop. And then we have the patient management and reporting system. In modules 1 and 2, we discussed the virtual training workshop portal. And module 3, now we start the patient management and reporting system. The patient management and reporting system requires you to authenticate with your email address and your password. And then there's an authorization that goes on when you try to access different pages within the role that you are assigned. This authorization depends on the permission that your supervisor would have assigned at the time that your account was created. The administration module consists of 4 permissions. If the system configuration permission is assigned, the user can configure the system with dynamic variables. This configuration needs to be done before the system can be used. So the first time the system is implemented, the administrator needs to do the configuration. Anybody given the system configuration permission is going to see this configuration menu. Now, all of you have the screening and management, and none of you have this administration role assigned to you. This is because this is the training system, and on your country system, you can have the administration role, but on this system, I do not want anybody configuring and reconfiguring this system because this is what we use for the training. But on your in-country system, you have your pilot site where you can use for practice of the same thing. So at the end of this workshop, whoever is in charge of the in-country systems, you go to your domain and then log in as an administrator and try out the configuration on that system. The only practical or practice we can do here is at the screenings and management, where everybody will try to enter patient record to have a feel on how to do that. So a person with system configuration permission, which will likely be given to the program manager and or the IT support, should have the system configuration permission. Now, if you are following up with the manual that is in the resources, I think this is on page 17, where you will see the administration role permissions. You have the configuration permission, and when you expand this menu, you will find testing and management site. Now, most of the links are named according to the functions or the functionality that they perform. You need to list all of the testing and management sites within the country before the drop-down menu can be populated on every part or every form that the user will need to select address of site or name of site. So when we come here, I have written some sites and tested. I can delete this and let us try to do this configuration for us to see how it is done. So all countries have their live site already configured because it was migrated from the previous configuration that you did. One rule you want to keep to is the rule on this instruction. For security reasons, this will not accept any apostrophe or special characters within the name. So if you are going to use something like St. Joseph's like this, you have to just write it without the apostrophe. You want to have a naming convention within the countries. So if you want to name your site in all uppercase, you want to document it and say, for configuration, you have a file. Anybody who is going to be assigned to manage case-based in the future, or any new staff that comes, will have a guide, a naming guide for how you configure the system. And this is because when I write, for instance, let me put site 001 for instance, and I say this site is Dominica. this site Dominica and this site Commonwealth of Dominica are two different sites. Although we know it's supposed to be the same thing, you want to have one name that means the same thing. And so when screenings are done and the person selects Commonwealth of Dominica, it will be calculated as a different site of screening. And the person selects Dominica, it will be calculated as a different site of screening. This now brings this problem of the surveillance officer having to manually add the two together to say Dominica and Commonwealth of Dominica means the same thing, but the person configuring just wrote the name more than once and wrote several names. The same thing if I write, for instance, I want to configure for St. Kitts and Nevis, and I put St. Kitts and Nevis. And I come here and I say St. Kitts and Nevis. These are different sites also. So now we are using country names, but in reality, site names you will use. You want to have a naming convention and be sure this is how you named it, this is how it should be. For whatever reason, once you have data on your system, you don't want to click on the delete button. You always want to edit. And so because it was requested, we have a delete button on this site. Because of the foreign keys that cascade down is when you delete the site, everything about that site is deleted out. And so that's why we have, instead of delete, we have a deactivate button where if you don't want that site, maybe the site is no longer in use, you don't want that site to be used anymore, you don't want it to be on the drop-down menu, but you want all records for that site to remain, so that if you say, for instance, you have a testing site or a private clinic that used to report for HIV, and the private clinic is shut down for whatever reason, you still want to make reference to the records prior to the time it is shut down. So, but you don't want anybody to select that name of site on the drop-down menu. So once it's deactivated, it's no longer on the menu. We're going to look at that today. So for countries, you have address of sites, which will be your health centers or testing sites or the name of the hospital. The rule again is for you to come up with your own naming convention. Do you want to name everything all uppercase, all lowercase, camel case like this, where the first character of every word is in uppercase? You decide how to name them. This is very critical because you don't want your reports to have two different groups that means the same thing, which means there'll be a manual calculation at the end of the day. And we're going to look at examples of this before we do the cleanup of your live data, to merge things that are conflicting. So for the purpose of this training, I am going to create my site names as country names, just so that we'll group countries together for the practical. So the name of this site will be Antigua and Barbuda. This site will be Dominica. Okay, so once you have
written,
yes.
So on the top you say you do not give names with apostrophe or any special characters. If a site name is St. Joseph, please use St. Joseph instead.
Yes.
But for the management site, you can use the ST. But for
so no, you can't use the ST. I'm just trying to illustrate the problems we'll have when we do it like this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So normally you have to do it like that. So
okay.
Like
I was making sure. All right.
Yeah. So you do them like this and you save. Now all of this will save, but at the time when you begin to select this site, you begin to have problems with names, with apostrophe, and all of this. And we'll see that for next week's training, when we do screenings and management, where you will not see the sites displayed because of their characters. So based on the instructions, I wanted to leave this here for us to see that error next week, and then for us to be able to go back and see what caused the error. So as an administrator, we want to be able to learn to troubleshoot the problems that we can encounter in the future. So if I do it straight without errors and that problem occur, you won't know what to do next. You understand?
Yes.
Yes. So we're going to create another site. We want to create another error too. Let's say this will be, or we'll do that in the parishes. I'll do that in the parishes. So we've configured testing and management site. We want to configure, so there's a place where we deactivate site here. So because we have entered this site, we don't want to delete the site because there are records that are, or screening records from this site, but we don't want this site displayed anymore on the drop-down menu. You can just click on this button to deactivate the site, so that while it doesn't display on the drop-down menu for new records to be entered under that site, you still have all your records for that site. Whenever you want to select sites to get, let's say for instance, you need to make reference to a report from 2018, but at 2020 this site was already deactivated. You should be able to see, the surveillance officer should be able to still get records from that site during their time of existence. So use the activate button if the issue is that it's not like the name of the site was entered wrongly and there are no data on the site, but it's the issue that the site has been closed and it's no longer in existence, so you deactivate there. So for configuration, you create testing and management site, you deactivate testing and management site. Then another thing you need to configure are the ethnicities within the country. Now, when I say we configure dynamic variables, is that these are the things that can change. At some point, you have a cluster of a particular ethnicity a lot in the country. And there are some islands that do immigration screenings, do some specific serology for immigration, especially for tuberculosis and all that. And you need to have that ethnicity on your list. And if you don't have that ethnicity, you will not be able to select it on the drop-down menu when you are doing those screenings. And so let's say, for instance, we have Caucasian. So you want to define again, like the testing and management site, what is your name convention? Do you want to use uppercase, lowercase? The system will see them as different things when you enter them. So you want to make sure that you have a convention that you want to stick to in the country or naming. So when you want to enter new ethnicities or new any of the new variables in the future, you stick to that convention. Okay, so we can enter more ethnicity. Let's say we have a lot of let's say Taiwanese, for instance. We want to add Chinese, for instance. We want to have Haitian, for instance. So even though we have black here, sometimes I've seen in some of your live servers where you want to differentiate where it is, because I know in some island they had an increase in tuberculosis at some points that were all imported, and they will want to track from which ethnicity, where is it imported from, where is it coming from. And then they would have seen that most of these screenings of increase in tuberculosis was from the immigration screenings that were done, and it is not a case that was circulating within countries. So this again, you decide within the country how you want to name your ethnicities. Do you want to name ethnicities as a cluster of different group of people that are coming a lot within the country, or you just want to make generic ethnicity like black, white, and all of that, Hispanic, and all of those ethnicity or that. But the purpose of this case-based system is not like the usual socioeconomic cluster of how many blacks, how many whites, how many Latinx, and the rest. It is to know exactly where something is coming from. If we're having high incidence of a particular disease because of high influx of a particular ethnicity, of a particular group of people. So ethnicity can be ethnicity names, or it can be nationality names of where people are coming from. Okay, so you can add more and you save them. Sorry, let's say one other ethnicity we'll put here. let's say Hispanic. And what other ethnicity? Is there?
I guess that's what we have.
That's all.
America, you have Americans.
Yeah. The Caribs and the Americans are the same.
You want to put Latin America, Latinos, but Latinos and Hispanics are almost the same thing.
Let's just put Latin America.
Yeah, Latin America.
Okay.
Oh, you didn't put East Indians.
East Indians, okay. So this is how you configure your system. So I think most of your pilot sites, your test sites within the countries are not configured. And so these are the configuration you need to do. Your live sites are configured. You want to leave it the way it is, except you want to review to see if, and don't delete anything on the live site. There are a lot of records on the site. So all the practice and all the trial and error must be on your training site. You must configure your training site. At the end of this training workshop, the last week, create accounts for all these participants we have throughout from the first week to the last week of the trainings, so that they can go there and practice and be comfortable. You don't want wrong data on your live site. You don't want to do trial and error where you have your patient record. You don't want to break. Nothing will actually break, but what you have is we have auto reporting functionalities. You don't want your reports not to be reliable because it is garbage in, garbage out. Okay. So when we do the ethnicity configuration, we move to the next one, health districts. You want to name all the districts within the country. So let's just, I'm not going to name particular health districts. I'm going to just use country names. So I can say District Dominica. So I'll start with Antigua. So, but in reality, or on your live site, you put the real names of the districts within the country. So we have District Dominica. So Dominica, you decide if you are naming things Dominica, you are naming them Commonwealth of Dominica, just stick to one convention. For the purpose of this training, just to be fast, I just shorten some things, but you want to use your standard names that you know you use all through. So let's put District Grenada. We'll put District St. Kitts and Nevis. District St. Vincent. Okay. If this is not done, the system cannot be used. So on implementation, so when you, like if for instance you decide you want to relocate your server, change your server, you build a new server based on the instructions in the repository, and you have not migrated your data, people cannot start using the system if this configuration is not done. So if you like build a new server, a new database, and you have not migrated your record, and you want people to start using that new system before the migration comes, you need to do this configuration, or you need to migrate at least all of the tables that hold configuration information. So we have the parishes. Again, I'll do the parish the same way. So your parish is going to be the real names of the parishes within the country and not the country name. But we want to use this for practical, so that when we do the practical, you just select your country as your parish. Then for this code, you can either skip the code or put codes if you have. I mean, I know some islands have their health centers and the parish have a particular code. You can use that code. It's alphanumeric. It doesn't have to be what I'm doing here.
So let me ask you a question. Just for clarification. I mean, before, when we were just working with this, we were able to just put, we have district, we put the parish. Once you go on the site or once you go on the system, it will automatically give you the option, because when you go to the drop-down menu, you'll see, let's say St. Joseph have district, Rosa have district, Buhunu have district, or whatever. Why is it we need to put a code for it this time around?
No, you don't need to put the code. I'm just putting code. The code is just so, like, for instance, some countries have codes, like a different district or parish have the code that they refer to. It's codified. I don't know about other islands, but I know St. Lucia has codes for different parishes and different health centers. And sometimes they refer to the code, right? So this part for code is just there in case if you need code for any reason. But you can skip it without entering code and it will still submit.
All right, thanks.
Okay. So you see we can save without the code. I remove the code for the first one. So in the event where your parishes and your health districts, they have government codes for different places within the place, you can use it there. And then gender identity list. Again, all of us know that we can't keep up with gender identities. Every day we hear something new. These are the standard ones that we knew existed, and there are several others that exist that you hear every day when you're screening people. So you can keep adding lists as they come up. You don't want this list to be free fields because of the fact that, so everything that is connected to automatic reporting cannot be a free field, because you need, free fields can be chaotic. People can spell it wrongly, spell it different way. The reporting is just going to be reporting one with an S differently from the one without an S and different things. So when you have new gender identities and you're a tester, you can request to your supervisor to add the new gender identity on the list, because this is the only thing you see in your drop-down menu if these are the only list of gender identity that you have. Don't use not applicable or unknown. If the person actually has a gender identity, you want to write it down, request to the supervisor to add it to the list. So we have female who identify as female. We have gender identity of female, either male or female that identify as female. We have male gender identity, not applicable, only used when the person is a baby or a child or something. And then we have transgender, we have transsexual, and then we have unknown. Maybe somebody was brought in critical to the emergency. The person cannot talk, and it's actually an HIV screening that was going to be done, and you're filling in this. So unknown at that point. Anybody has any gender identity list that you want me to add here? Again, for the purpose of accuracy, when somebody walks in for screening, even if they are transgender and you're trying to enter the person's sex or gender into the system, you are writing in what they are born as, not what they say they are. When you begin to write gender identity, you are going to write what they say they are. So don't put a transgender female as a male on the system, or as a female on the system, because the person was male before they became female. So you have to put their biological or their sex assigned at birth has their gender, and their gender identity is what they now identify as, just for the purpose of the surveillance report, for us to be able to compare. This is originally this gender, and this is their new gender, or this is what they identify as. So all of that list of identities, this is where you fix them in. By default, you have female, male, not applicable, transgender, transsexual, and unknown. Whatever new one you have, you can add it there. Okay? Now there's an issue of non-binary. It is not part of gender identity list. Non-binary is not part of gender list also. The person is either born as a male, a female, or and intersex. The person cannot be non-binary at birth. So there's no non-binary option. I know this conversation has come up. It is not accurate for surveillance purpose. Non-binary might just now be a gender identity. If people just decide that they don't identify as anything, they are non-binary, or they are whatever it is that they have. Any list you see keep coming up frequently, just put it there as the gender identity list. Okay, is there anyone we? Yes.
When does not applicable apply?
For a baby, maybe you're screening a baby
Okay.
that doesn't have an identity yet. Yeah. All right. So we have pharmacy list. Now you have to list all of the pharmacy that is going to dispense ARTs or ARVs to clients, or any drug that is going to be dispensing medications to HIV clients. Because apart from the ARVs, there are other medications you give for other OIs that you want to also track. And so you write the names of all the pharmacies that will be using the system. And this is also for the reporting of drug stock out, and to be able to see time of prescription to time of pickup, also track adherence and all of that. So let's put pharmacy name. We'll use country names here. Then we will see how to configure the drug and treatment regimen. Now, there is a need to put this drugs and treatment regimen, and the reason we have to put this here is for surveillance purpose. People will write drugs in different form, either abbreviations, full name, generic name, different kind of names to write. We want some standard names for the drug and treatment regimen, and we don't want to have conflict in the reporting. And so for this, we'll just fill in some drugs. Whatever I do here is what we are using for the screening and management next week. So we have to fill it in as much as possible, so that is what you'll see on the drop-down menu when you log in next week to be able to do this. So let's start with some TB drugs. Now I want to show you how to configure this. You need to get an exhaustive list of everything that is being prescribed at the clinic. So we use isoniazid. You can put in brackets any name or code. And then this is first line TB, right? Dr. Nisbet, with the doctors here. That's for first line TB, right?
Yes, Mildred, it is.
Okay. And so we use rifampicin. I think the code is RIF, and this is also first line TB. I'll not even bother pronouncing some of these names so I don't bite my tongue. So this is PZA, and yeah, I think all of these are first line. This is EMB. Am I missing any drug for first line TB treatment?
You can put streptomycin.
Yeah, it's there.
Oh, it's there already? Okay.
Yeah. So if we miss one, we'll put it in later when we get to clinical management. Then for second line, we have ofloxacin. While we are here, Dr. Elizabeth, what drug will any person on levofloxacin that gets yeast infection from this treatment use?
I'm not even looking at what drug it is that you put in there.
Yeah, I want to add that. Yeah, because most of the time, you see, when the people on this treatment, right, they end up with yeast infection from that treatment. For the long use of that antibiotics, and we usually do not put it on the list of the treatment regimen. So I was saying, what drugs will you usually prescribe for that yeast infection when they take those medications a long time?
We can use fluconazole.
Okay, fluconazole. Okay, I'll add that to the other drugs. Let me put it now. And this will be other medication. Fluconazole. Okay. This should be MOX. Yeah, I'm getting this code from the OECS manual. Ciprofloxacin. It's sick. Second line TB. Okay. Then we want the intensive phase. We use. I'm just going to name it the way it is on the manual. And this will be for intensive phase. Is there any other medication for intensive phase, or this is just the one?
You have 2-HRZE
plus
S plus 1-HRZE.
Okay, that's for intensive phase. Just these two?
Yes.
And then for the continuation phase, we use 4HR. Is there anyone for continuation phase again?
You have 5-HER and 4-HER?
Yes. Okay. ER or RE?
RE.
Okay. I think these are all the TB treatments, right? In use within the countries?
Yes. We have some more that we can use, but I guess we don't have access to the second line. Amikacin and so forth.
Okay, so let me just put them just in case in the future it comes in. So the thing is, even if it exists in the world and is not yet in the country, if you know about them, just put them, just so that when it exists, we won't have problems with trying to reconfigure or getting whoever is on board to reconfigure that.
Okay. So let's go back to this. So you have gatifloxacin?
Yes.
Kanamycin?
Yes.
Amikacin?
Amikacin, let me put this.
amikacin. Cycloserine?
Cyclo.
SERINE.
Is it the same with this? And the Terry. I think it's the same kind of drug, right?
Yeah. Clofazimine.
Am I spelling this incorrect?
Let me check. I'm just checking what I have on my site.
Okay.
So that okay, yeah. Let's see what you don't have. There's PROTHI.
Yes.
You have that?
Yes, I have that.
You have it already?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes,
Yeah.
you do. Yes. Okay. So those are all of my
and then I think that's all right.
yeah, that's all I know of.
Okay, I'll put this as a single name. You don't use I guess Septrin is not the second line treatment. It's first line. I think we did it already.
What's that?
Septrin, Bactrim.
Oh, that's prophylaxis.
Okay, that's prophylaxis.
Yeah. Prophylaxis for OIs.
Oh, okay. All right. So we'll do those ones as prophylaxis. Let's do prophylaxis and syphilis treatment. So let's do. This on the medication. So for those configuring, once the medication does not belong to TB treatment or HIV treatment, right, it has to go to other medication. For TB treatment, there is first line TB, second line TB, there is the intensive phase and the continuation phase. For HIV, there's first line HIV, there's second line HIV, and there is third line HIV. Every other medication for syphilis, for Hep B, everything goes under other medication. Which other medication do you use for any other treatments that is more frequent?
You put in They put in Septrin already?
No. Oh, okay, the perception. What's the name? Not the brand name.
Cotrimoxazole. Cotrimoxazole.
Am I spelling it correctly?
Go back here. Yes.
I think CO like this.
Yeah.
Yes. So once you are configuring treatment regimen, try to make sure it is not a brand name of the medication, so that once it's been selected, it's not like tied to a brand, but the particular. So any brand of that medication is prescribed. Then so let's medication for syphilis. We've not added that. We'll just put this other medication. Am I missing any syphilis medication?
You have the Aquis, okay. You have the Panadol.
Panadol? Panadol or
Panadol.
Spell?
P-A-N-A-D-U-R. Panadol.
Or you better use the
Panadol. P-E-N.
Penicillin, because you said don't use the generic. Don't use the brand.
Don't use the brand. Yeah.
So use benzophine penicillin.
Yeah, benzoline.
What's the spelling?
A-T-H-I-N-E.
T-H-I-N-E. Penicillin.
Okay. Do we have topical medications?
Not for syphilis.
For syphilis? Yeah, for any opportunistic infections. Which other one do we have? So you just configure this. More things will come up as we go along, and so we will not spend so much time on this. So let's just do the HIV, and then privately I'll research more medications or drugs or whatever, exhaustive list of things. So you put as many in your configuration as you can think of. I think most of the things in the manual is on your live server for most of you. But we'll have them. Sorry, this is not second line HIV. It's supposed to be other medications. So try to make sure you're not using the delete button. You update and update things, except if you are just configuring and you see an error immediately that cannot be corrected, and then you delete. But once they're recorded on the system, you don't want to be deleting. So let's try HIV medications. These are the ones that will cause us a little bit of headache to write. Now, for the HIV treatment, there are some of those medications that I think are used for other purposes also, apart from HIV treatment. And so when we write it as a combination treatment for the different lines, we'll write them also as other medications. So let's do. If there's an update, just let me know which one is no longer in use. This is 300, 200, 600, right? First line HIV. So TDF, FTCE, FV is 326, right? Anybody? Once we find a need to correct them later, we'll correct them. We'll just write it as the last time I knew what it was. I think this should be 336.
We can also add Mildred, dolutegravir, lamivudine, and tenofovir.
You said?
Dolutegravir, lamivudine, and tenofovir. We can also add this one as first line. DTG, dolutegravir, 50 milligram. Lamivudine. Okay, sorry.
DTG, which one?
Free TC, anti-DF. So dolutegravir, 50 milligram. Lamivudine will be 300 and tenofovir 300.
Okay, that's first line.
We have TDF, FTC, and dolutegravir.
Like that?
Yeah, something like that. I think that's 300. I don't know what is, I can't remember the.
Okay. TDF, FTC.
Yeah, so it's 300, FTC is 200.
200. Yeah.
And DTG is 50.
So you can put everything in the OECS manual here, and then so you can have the option to select anyone in use from the drop-down menu later on. Is there any other second line HIV? Not here. Is that second line HIV you use that is not present already?
Usually I have 11 of them recorded, but I'll have to go through all of them to find out which one is not there. 1, 2,
Okay.
10. You have AZT3TC at the Zanavir.
AZT?
You have that? AZT3TC at the Zanavir with ritonavir. AZT3TC ATV.
Yes, I have that.
You have that? Okay. You have AZT3TC lopinavir.
Yes.
With ritonavir. You have AZT3TC darunavir.
Yes.
AZT3TC raltegravir, lopinavir.
Yes.
Abacavir, A3TC lopinavir, ritonavir.
Yes.
ABC 3TC atazanavir.
No. So it's AZT.
ABC abacavir 3TC atazanavir with ritonavir.
With ritonavir is what's the code?
The small R.
Okay. I don't have that one. That's second line.
Yes.
Then what one?
I think you will have all the others. TDF, FTC, atazanavir, ritonavir. You have that
TDF,
one, right?
FTC, no. I don't have that.
Atazanavir?
No. No, I don't. TDF, FTC, and
ATV.
ATV. Okay.
You have TDF, 3TC, lopinavir.
Yes.
With ritonavir. TDF, 3TC, atazanavir with ritonavir.
Yes.
Why do I have this as a second line? TDF, FTC. This is like the first line to me. I have something wrong on my thing. I'll have to change.
All right, so I think these are the ones we have. So I'm putting in, you notice when we have ABC, just ABC alone, 3TC alone, it's under other medications. Because I think they were also prescribed differently. I think there was a request in 2022 to make it like this. Well, where you have just ABC, just 3TC, just FTC. So we're going to add it like that, and they'll be all under other medication. So we'll just stop here and move on. And so there are more medications and more lists, and that's I'll add later on, maybe during the afternoon session, to have an exhaustive list of different things that we can use. Okay. So once the configuration of the drug and treatment regimen is done, you can enter a vaccine list also. The list of all the different vaccines that you give both exposed infants, HIV positive, pregnant women. And so let's do the vaccine. You don't give BCG, right, to exposed infants? Do you?
No.
Okay. So the reason I'll put it here is for a child that is later positive, not an exposed infant, and you want to just select the vaccines that child was given at birth. Okay, for this we'll also stop here. There are a lot of other vaccines that will be there. Maybe during the afternoon session, I will use that to fill in the vaccines as their own practical also for them to see how to do it. But again, there are small lists. On the system, you have an exhaustive list of all of the vaccines that are used within the country, both for a child at birth, an exposed infant, a pregnant person, and the general population, just to populate the drop-down list when you want to select the list of vaccines that a particular client has had, either at birth or as time goes by. Then we also have screening lists. Now, this is the most important. And this has categories. For surveillance purpose, you need to have your screening list in their correct category. The reporting is not going to categorize the screening as syphilis if it was not set as syphilis when you configure. So now we want to put a screening name, TPPA for instance, and we'll say this is a syphilis screening. Even if the person walks in for a routine screening, this is a syphilis screening. TPHA, we'll put a different variation of names that might be used. FTA, ABS, I think. We use Apria. And we write syphilis rapid test. Is there any other syphilis screening? VDRL, right? Is there any other syphilis screening? No?
No, I can't think of any right now.
Okay. Then let's look at the TB screenings. You still use the expert MTB?
Yes.
Alright, so this is for TB. Different variation. You can use TST, it's still the same thing as MAN2. What about syphilis screenings do we do? TB screenings do we do?
Acid fast bacilli.
Which other one? So let's say HIV rapid test. We do the
Yes, you could do
HIV
TB culture, I guess.
TB culture. Sputum or just TB culture?
Just TB culture for TB.
Okay. Okay, we'll just stop here, and when we get the other list that needs to go there, we add it there. Okay, then we want to configure also the test modalities. Now there is the UNAIDS have their different test modalities and the names. We'll just put in those that are relevant to us, and we are just tracking testing indicators. So you want to know if the screening was done from a mobile facility, an NGO, a public facility, maybe like a community test drive, if it is for PMTCT testing, or if it's a confirmatory test, or a self-test, or any private VCT provider. So we'll just name those ones. So we'll have VCT NGO, and this is the testing indicator. There are other treatment indicators, virally suppressed indicators, health system indicators, host country indicators, and monetary special initiative. I don't think the island reports on this yet, but it is here. So when another funding cycle comes and there are new reporting indicators, you already have the different types, and then you just have to find out what you need to report on and create it as a test modality. So there are different variations of these names. Just know what it means, but whichever way you you name them, know what it means relative to what you are tracking. And then save. So you can also create vaccine list schedule. We've created vaccine list, but there's a schedule that you can create. Like you want to know the different series of the vaccines that you have in the country and at what time they are needed. So like if you need to give a particular vaccine, this populate from the vaccine list, and want to say what time frame the child or the person should collect it. Is it at birth, 6 weeks after, or is it 2 months after the first series and this is a booster dose? So you have to write the series. You have to select the vaccine, the time the person is supposed to take it, and what series. Is it a one-time vaccination? So let's say, for instance, we had a COVID vaccine here, it's put COVID, and maybe this is a first booster, or you put MMR and you put first booster, second booster. So the schedule, you create a schedule, and this is for information purpose. So when you get to the different pages and there is now a vaccine tracking, you want to know what time a particular person, maybe somebody who is positive needs a particular vaccine, and those vaccines are in series where they have to take first dose, booster dose. You want to be able to track which ones they've taken and when they're supposed to take the next one or the booster doses. So we'll leave this part, but we have the vaccination schedule there. Then we also have national census population by sex and age group. This is also needed. So surveillance reports will not be generated if you don't have your census population information. Now, I think most of you have it on your live server, but on your test site, you just copy over what you have on your live. And yes?
Oh, that wasn't a question.
Okay. So you want to select the age group, the year, number of male, number of female, and the total. And you do that for all the years that you have record on the system. Sometimes you find your census population every 10 years, so this is not so much record to enter. You might just have 10 rows of record to enter here. You want to put census record for as far back as your earliest record. So if you have a record that is 1989 on your system, client record from 1989, you want to have census population prior to 89. So let's say you have a census population for 1980, it has to be there up until the most recent census population record that you have. So this is the most important, and this is what the system uses to calculate things like births per 1,000, calculate things like screenings per 100,000 population or positives per 100,000 population. They need this information. So we have different variations of census. This is the most important. The other ones, you can actually skip them because they are not used for reporting for now, but they are there on the system in the event that in the future you start reporting by different divisions or different health districts, or if you want to start doing advanced statistics on the system where you want to have correlation, let's say HIV or TB or syphilis or any of these diseases become an epidemic in the future, and you want to start having some kind of inferential statistics to begin to understand if there's a correlation between one thing and the other, then you want to add things like economic variables, know at the year, the GDP, what the government expenditure is, education expenditure, health expenditure, see if there's any positive or negative correlation between these variables and the epidemic or the rise or fall in the diseases. So this is there for advanced statistics if it's ever needed, if you want to ever do that, or for research purpose, for those who want to write publications and have enough data on the system to be able to use for research purpose if you want. So all the other configurations down are also optional configurations. You want to enter child mortality if you begin to track the number of deaths of a child at birth, and then maybe maternal mortality also. All of this will begin to become important. So you can configure them if you have them. If you don't have them, you can stop at national census population by sex and age group. This is the most important. The rest are there for advanced statistics when you need them. Then we have export size, export ethnicity. Some people like having things on paper. You might want to print out what you have configured to have them on file. So in the event that you want to make reference in the future, you know the names of the sites, their codes, or whatever it is that you want to do with it. But now you have all of those exports where you can export all of your configuration if you want. Either as an Excel spreadsheet or you want to print them out, whatever you want to do. Okay, does anyone have questions about the configuration before we move to the next permission?
This is a question from earlier up, Mildred. You said you can deactivate a site because the site may not be testing, or suppose you have to reactivate the site. How do?
Okay, so when you come here, and let's say we deactivate this site. So where you deactivate, you have deactivated site. You can click on the button to reactivate that site.
Okay, thanks. Yeah.
All right, so this is with the system configuration permission. This permission, you see the whole functionalities of that permission. You decide within country who you give that permission within the administration role. Now, we keep saying that you can give administration role to anybody in IT, but you don't want to give somebody in IT users and accounts permission. And the reason is, a person with users and account permission that is in IT does not naturally have access to patient record, but they can create an account and give permission to have that access to view whatever record they want to view. So whenever you want to give permissions, you need to know what functionalities the permission controls, and if you have regulations within the country and you don't want to expose patient records to those who are not authorized to view them, then you want to carefully select who has access to which permission. So system configuration can actually go to anyone, IT support, admin. Now, users' accounts is very sensitive. It's better it resides within the super user or the program manager or someone who can naturally have access to these records, because the person with users and accounts can create any account for themselves, assign any permission or role to themselves to do whatever they want to do with records. So even if you don't give permission to the screenings and management rule and the care card permission, and the person has administrative role and users and account permission, they can actually create an account that can do those things. So for most countries, users and accounts just stays within the program unit. A user assigned users and permission will see this. Now, for administration role, configuration, users and accounts, supervision, and history will be available. These menus will be available based on permission. A person with system configuration will see this. If not, they won't see this on their list. A person with users and accounts permission will see users and accounts, and the person can create users, can manage users of the system, can register the users to the different sites and the different functionalities, can find and retrieve missing unique ID by searching by patient name, and can update critical or sensitive patient information. So a person with users and accounts will create users. Now, during the creation of a user of the system, you have to decide what role the user should be assigned to. The role controls the authentication. When somebody puts the correct email address and the correct password and they click login, they are authenticated into the home page of their assigned role. Now, the permissions you assign now controls what they see within the role that they are assigned. Now, the person that has users and accounts will now create all of the users' information. You need the first name, the last name, the email address, and then you need an idea of the person's job function to be able to assign the person to one of the three roles, either administration, monitoring and reporting, screenings and management. When you select a role, the permissions associated with that role are displayed. For administrator, the permissions are users account, system configuration, supervised screenings, and history tracking. You can select one or all permissions. For super users, should have all permissions. For somebody that is just not a super user but needs access to a group of functionalities for their job role, you want to see which permission holds those group of functionalities. So the manual has each permission and the functionality that each of them hold. Now, when you create a new user, an email is sent to the email address here that you've specified here. That email contains a confidentiality agreement. it contains a link for them to click on and activate the account. When they click on that link holds a confidentiality agreement. They have to click I agree and then set their password. Both yourself and the system has no knowledge of the password that they set. Only the person who set the password knows their password. So if they call you and say, I forgot my password, the only solution is to reset. You can't retrieve the password. If I want to manage an account, now creating accounts, you have to know the different permissions associated with the roles, which we will see in the manual. We can't go through all of the different permissions, but they are listed here. When you want to assign administration role, you can see the list of the permissions and the functionality it holds. You want to assign monitoring and reporting, you can see the list of permissions and the functionality they hold. If you want to assign screens and management, you can see the list of permissions and the functionalities they hold. The key is to read every instruction on the page, on the form. Everything on the form is very important so that you don't take longer to perform a task and then make mistakes and have to retrace your step. So everything is in the other instructions on the left part of the page for account creation. Now, when you create an account, that email is sent. When they have problems with the accounts, the only thing you can do is to manage existing users. Now, I will use let me see if I have an account here to use. Okay, so once you manage user, you need the email address of the person whose account has issues. You can see the name. Let's say some people want their name capitalized. By default, the system makes everything lowercase. I want it capitalized. I can capitalize the name, and then the role that I assigned is between administration, monitoring and reporting, screenings and management. If the job function of the person changes, like the person used to be screenings and management, but now is just not going to be screening anymore, but to be an admin or a super user, you can either create a new account for the person or switch accounts, the role from screenings and management to administration here. If they complain about not getting activation emails or they go to reset their password before they try to activate, you can come here and change from not activated to activated. But for the people assigned screenings and management, activating it will not solve the problem because they have to agree to the confidentiality agreement. Now, the confidentiality agreement is critical because it holds all the terms and conditions of not exposing patient record and all of that. You don't want to bypass that. And so even if you manually activate the account, they have to agree to that. If that you want to give them paper form or what, but the system will not allow you to go forward, they have to find that email from their spam folder or not. If they can't find it, you simply delete the account, recreate it so that the system send another account email to them. Yes, Lester?
So just for clarification, Mildred, so let's say, as you said, the person would have been doing screening and right now the person is in management.
Yeah.
You simply go here and change it. But
yes.
If you want the person to remain in screening and still be part of management, you just control click and you get both of the roles?
No, you can't get both roles. It has to be one role. So it has to be a new account. If the person wants to have two roles, they have to have two accounts for the two roles. Remember that the email address is the unique identifier for everybody on the system. So everything is role-based access. And so to access a particular role, you are locked into that role, except the role is changed. You can't have two roles of a system at the same time.
All right, cool, thanks.
Okay. So one thing to notice when you change things, like on the first tab, I have manage users and I update this. Now take note that I can view the user, see that the person is activated and see last seen. Now when most of you send an email that you cannot log in, you lost, this is what I check and see, but you've activated your account because you successfully logged in at some point, which means that you have just forgotten your password. It's not like you didn't activate or you didn't go. When the status is N, that means they never clicked on any activation link and they have never logged on before. So you will see all of the information here, and then you will come here if you want to reset permissions. Now I have only general population screenings, referrals, updates, and routine permission. Let's say I need access to all permissions, so I want to reset permission here. and I'll select all. So when it comes to permission, that's when you can control and select all. If you're using Windows, and command and select all. If you're using a MacBook, and you can select all the permission associated with the role. Now what I want to illustrate now is that I want to make updates to the name here, and I update. Once you update a user, for security purpose, the system wipes out the person's permissions. It does not want permissions to exist for a person if the person is no longer associated with a particular role. Now, because on that same page, we can update role, it's now delete all of the permissions. So once you ever do anything on the person's account like this, you make an update on any tab, you have to come back again to the edit permissions to see that the permissions have been wiped out, to select new permissions for this person, and then you reset permission. So whenever you manage a user's account, and you do an update, and the update has nothing to do with the permissions, you have to come back after you get a success message to update the permissions of the person, because the permissions will be wiped out as soon as there's an update to any part of the person's credentials. And now you see I have the permissions here. Okay, so all of these are detailed in the manual, but the manual you have now is a draft manual that will be significantly updated, so it's better you don't print it out yet. You can read it digitally, and the updates will be available at the end of the training workshops. Once you create a user's account and the user is a pharmacist, you have to come here. You have a drop-down menu. You can start typing the user email address. And so let's put the registered email address of the user. And we'll say get form. And then it finds the email address of a person assigned the screenings and management role. And then it tells you to choose a pharmacy that the person should be assigned to. Now, the users can do this themselves. Either you register them to a particular pharmacy, or when they log in, they'll see where they can switch their pharmacy or register themselves to a pharmacy. Now, the reason again for this is in some countries, the pharmacies rotate. Sometimes they're in a particular pharmacy, and then other times they are in other pharmacies. And so when the pharmacy is using this system, the stock from their prescription is deducted from the pharmacy they are assigned. If somebody is in pharmacy A on Monday, and on Friday the person is in pharmacy B and doesn't switch pharmacy, then any dispense will be counted against pharmacy A, and it will now become wrong because they are dispensing from pharmacy B, but they did not update their pharmacy. So one of the things for every pharmacy user is you have to update your pharmacy every day and make sure you are at the correct pharmacy. So you can assign this person to any pharmacy, let's say pharmacy Antigua, and then this person has been associated with the pharmacy. So when I now try to record any prescription or dispense any medication, it is going to be deducting from the stock that this pharmacy has entered. So once it's stock out, the system can see that that particular medication is done. The doctor's prescribing can see that this particular pharmacy does not have this medication in stock before the prescription happens. So we'll look at all of that in the screenings and management workshop for module 4. The same users, all the accounts we created, they cannot do anything on the system, even if they have an account. We have to come here to select. We'll see a list of everybody who has an account for screenings and management, and we have to link them to a site. So you might have some people who are in the HIV secretariat there who do screening. You want to assign them to the site, and the site is going to be populated with the list of sites that you created during the configuration. The screenings at the site. So everybody, so let's say we have 5 sites in the country, site A, B, C, D, E. People screening at site A will have all of the screenings counted against site A. People associated to site B will have all of the screenings associated with site B. They can see the reports for the screenings they have done in their site. They can see records for the screenings in their site. If the user is going to be moved from one site from the north to another site in the south, you have to come here and reassociate them with a new site. If a user is not associated to a site, they cannot have screenings done. So let's start associating users to site. So let me put this in Antigua. And so once I call your email, you tell me your site. If not, you will not be able to enter records during the practical session. Corazonoro, that's Leicester, Dominica. So in real life, what you have is the name of the site, not the name of the country. So we're using country names here as site names, just for the practical purpose. This one. What country? Dominica, St. Kitts and Nevis. Leicester, is this from you?
No, the Corazon or that was us. I don't know. Kemisha Pascal, no. That person is not.
It's not from you. Antigua, St. Kitts and Nevis.
No, not St. Kitts and Nevis.
Okay. And so maybe Grenada. So I will not associate this. And this is one of the reasons I said in the email this morning, we're not creating accounts for screenings and management for those not in the training, and because that account is purposely for practical, and people that will not attend have no need actually having an account. So put this for St. Kitts and Nevis. Yeah?
It's a little query. So from what I just heard you mention, you're saying that if somebody is assigned to a site, assigned to a site, if let's say we have outreach going on in the district, testing and counseling providers from, let's say, the National HIV Program is assisting and they're doing counseling and testing at a different site. When they're entering on the system, they're not entering for the National HIV Unit, they're entering for personal health district. That wouldn't be a problem, because that means that they were not registered to Portsmouth site, but they were counselors or testers at an outreach at Portsmouth. What happens then?
So at that point, it's going to be registered against the sites where they're registered to at the time they entered. So you have to update the site if they want to record it against another site, or create a testing site that is called outreach. And so when they're doing outreach, they should just use that site.
Okay. Because the thing is, when you're entering the client's information, you're already entering from what site you're doing. You are taking their information. So even if I am from National HIV Unit site, as a counselor, I am entering a client from Portsmouth. Once I'm entering the client's information, I'm going to put the client is from Portsmouth. Shouldn't the system just automatically record that it's from Portsmouth that the person?
No, it won't record. It will only record where the user is assigned to.
Wow.
So the only timestamp we have is timestamp of system timestamp at the time, and the stamp of the name of the person logged in who is entering the record. If you're entering past record, it can now ask you the name of the reporter, but the address of site is also stamped. And the address of site is going to be stamped based on the site that the user is assigned to. So you need to reassign people to the site where they belong. And it wasn't like this previously. It was still based on request that this was changed like this. And the reason is when you want to supervise. So when we go to the monitoring and reporting part, where you want to supervise I think it's on this administration, when you want to supervise screenings, you need to be able to get screenings only for a particular site. Like you see when you guys were doing your validation and you want to know, like you don't want to leave Roseau and be going to Portsmouth every day to supervise what they're doing. You want to be able to sit down on your system, log in, and just enter that site, select that site, and see what they're entering in real time. So if they're not collecting the information you want to stop them or correct them or call them immediately to tell them you need to collect all of this information. Or if you just want to look through their records to make sure that they're collecting to standard, especially maybe you're looking at standards of the time of screening rapid test to the time of confirmatory test, or after confirmatory test is done and there's no referral, you want to supervise those kind of things, this is the only way you can do it, by the address of site. And the users have to be on their correct site at the time they are screening. If you are going to be screening at Portsmouth, that day you have to update your site that you are linked to. Okay. You have to come here and change the site you are linked to for you to do that. Okay, so we can assign everybody to the site. I will not spend more time on this because we're almost out of time, but I will use the rest as example also in the afternoon session, and everybody will be at their site. Anybody whose site I cannot locate, we'll do that when the person is available next week for the screening and management site. But take note that if all of these things are not done, the system cannot be used. So the first and most important part is the person with the administration permission. When the system was implemented, the email and password we got for the test user is assigned to the administration role and has all permissions. When you got that email and password, you were to create your own administration account and delete that test account. Then that administration role, the account you use, is what you use to create accounts for every other users within the country. It is what you're going to use to configure the system so the users can actually use the system. When you create a user's account, you need to register the user as a pharmacist. If the user is a pharmacist, this functionality can be done by the user themselves. You need to attach users to testing and management sites. This is what only you can do yourself. We wanted to do it like the pharmacists, where they can switch pharmacy by themselves on their own page. But for users, I think we discussed this thoroughly again. It's going to be chaotic because, again, it is with patient record. Somebody wants to know, let's say, for instance, you were trying to track somebody and you heard the person went to a site in Portsmouth in the south or in the north, and you want to start checking all the sites. If you can just find an information about the person and you keep switching your site to keep scanning through if there's anything that looks like the person's information. And so for this reason, only supervisors can assign people to a site. While the surveillance report is countrywide, every user gains access to information from their site alone. But every user can get the unique ID of any client, enter that unique ID to get information about the clients. Like, let's say somebody was screened in Portsmouth, has been followed up in a clinic in Portsmouth, and the person comes to Roseau now. If you have the unique ID, you can screen the person in Roseau now, but you have access to all the records in Portsmouth as long as you have the unique ID of the person. So these are the security layers that protect the patient record and also protect everybody from any legal issues. Anybody with question?
Afternoon session, but I thought that afternoon session was a repeat.
Yeah, it's a repeat for this.
Oh, okay. So you don't have to attend it once we're here.
Yeah, you don't have to attend it once you're here. And you don't have to attend Wednesday morning once you're here.
Okay, thanks.
But you have to attend either tomorrow morning, tomorrow afternoon, or Thursday morning.
Oh, okay. No, I just, because you keep saying afternoon session, so I just thought it was a continuance.
No, it's not continuation. Why I say that is I wanted to have more things to add so that I can use it for the walkthrough for afternoon.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So if you have registered users and you want to look at all the users you've registered, or you want to just print it out, have something on file, this is where you come to view all users. Or you want to look at the permission assigned just for verification of it. If a user has been created, you can search, you can type to search, you can sort by activation status to see those who have activated and those who have not activated. You can search by the name of the user of the system. So when we talk about user, we're talking about the people who use the system. We're not talking about the client. Then we have find missing unique ID. Now, when we create client accounts, what we need is a unique ID of the client. Some places collect names, information about the person names. Some places don't. You just need the first letter of the names. In the event you have a client working, tell you that they forgot their unique ID, but they have a record on the system, and you don't want to create a new duplicate account for the client. At this point, it is to ask the supervisor if the person's name was entered to try by first name. So you want to give your supervisor the first name of the client, the last name of the client, the mother's maiden name of the client, if not the full names, the first letter of each name, the mother's maiden name of the client, the year of birth of the client, and the biological sex of the client. And if the first name is not found, the last name is not found, which means that the person was not, the record was not entered by first or last name, then an automatic testing code that can be generated using the algorithm based on the first letter of first name and the first letter of last name, and the first letter of mother's maiden name, the last 2 digits of year of birth, and the F or M or I for biological sex, to use the testing code to retrieve everybody who has the same testing code. And so now the first letter of the first name, last name, and mother's maiden name will now make you identify which of all of the people will have the same testing code. It narrows down the search. So it might just be only that person.
Sorry, Mildred, which link did you click on there?
So for this one, you use
administration. Okay, thanks.
Find missing unique ID.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So you might not be able to search by first or last name because most times they don't collect names of clients. And sometimes they collect names of clients. And so depending on, not all clients want to give you their names anyway. So on the system, you have places where you have names of clients, places where you don't have names of clients. But once you have issues retrieving a record of a client and the unique ID is wrong and the client cannot provide the correct unique ID, because there is no way you as the user of the system have an index of unique IDs that matches somebody to their names for security purpose. Only the clients have their unique ID, so they feel comfortable knowing that the record being on the system doesn't mean that they're exposed to people knowing about them. They alone hold the unique ID, and it's only when they walk in that the care provider can actually access their record. When they're not there, there is no access to their records. When you want to send a request to search for somebody's or retrieve somebody's unique ID, you want to send their first letter of first name, first letter of last name, or their full first name and last name if the client is willing, their mother's maiden name or the first letter of it, their year of birth, and their biological sex. And then the person with this administration permission will come to find missing unique ID and will try to search either by first name, either by last name, or generate a testing code using the first letter of the first name, the first letter of the mother's maiden name, the first letter of the last name, the last 2 digits of the year of birth, and the code for the biological sex. M for male, F for female, I for intersex, and then search. And then if there are multiple people in the country with that testing code, you begin to see things like the full date of birth, the country of residence, their testing code, their first name, last name, if they have, and other information that can help you identify which unique ID belongs to who at that point. So when you now get maybe 5 different unique IDs that have that testing code, you can now ask questions like the address of this is this, what's the person's address, to verify which of this is the person's info or unique ID, and then that can be used to now retrieve IDs. So you want to go through this process rather than create new accounts, because the old one, you no longer have the unique ID. You need to try to retrieve the old records. The system will not merge 2 records of one person. So we have update client's personal information. Now there are information about people that can never change. There are information that change all the time. Information that can change all the time, like their addresses and their country of residence, their health districts that they go to, the parish, and all of those things. You can actually, the users can change that on the client's personal information. Now security information are things like their names. Names can change, but names don't change too frequently. Nobody wakes up every month and change their name every month. Some people can change their name once in a lifetime, change their name by birth, adoption, marriage, things like that. So those ones are security information. Only the supervisor can make those changes. So the users will have to send a request to the supervisor that this person's name is changed with justification. I know the islands are small and there's nothing to do with people's health record or trying to manipulate health records to suit a situation, but there have been cases in the world where people need to use health record to blackmail other people, and they can pay people to change people's names to suit other people's diseases just to get some kind of fake information. And so these things are security information. Names, something again that can never change is the country of birth. You can't be born in Antigua today and born in Dominica tomorrow. You are born in one place, it can never change. And so that is the security information that can never be changed. Your date of birth, except if it's entered in error, can also never change. The day you are born is the day you are born. That date can never change. The ethnicity of people cannot change except if the person is in error, or maybe even if people migrate and want to have a new ethnicity and say they by naturalization, their ethnicity is still their ethnicity. And so when you need to change those security information as a supervisor, you need to decide what security questions you want to ask and the justification for updates. So if it was entered in error, you will see that it was just created and you want to help them update it to what is current. Unique IDs can also be changed only by the supervisor. If somebody, for instance, has an expired passport, they used to use their passport number for unique ID, and they have the expired passport, they want to throw it away, they have a new one, and they want to say they don't want to keep the old passport number in their head or keep walking around with it. They want you to use that one, the new one. You can now change the unique ID from the old to the new, and this is where all that happens. So we don't have any client on the system to illustrate how to update information of a client, but when you have a client and you have the unique ID of that client, then we'll update this. We'll do this on the last day of the training again. Once we have records, then we'll run through all of the supervisory, that's the user's account and the supervision again. So here we know what security information are and what the users cannot update without the supervisor. So only supervisors can do this. And then we have the supervision permission. Anybody with a supervision permission can look at the different testing sites and get screenings by testing sites. Now we just created a site. We have no records on the site. When you select a site, you will see all of the screenings in a table that was done by the site. When you click on the action button here, you will now be able to look at the whole data entered for that screening. You want to see if the screenings were entered correctly, the data entered correctly, all of the information that are needed for reporting are collected completely. If not, you will see the name of reporter here for that site. So if you want to be on top of things, let's say there's a validation going on, you need to make sure that all forms are filled correctly. This is where you come in, and let's say some islands you have going from north to south, you are going to spend up to 2 hours on the road. You don't want to do that and be rotating from site to site to see what they're doing. If they have, like the example you gave Lester, that you have an outreach somewhere and you can stay in the office and keep refreshing to see how many screenings they've done and what the results of the screenings are even before they give any reports. And in real time, while they're still on the screening, you can see what they're entering and if it's correct or wrong, or if it's complete or not complete for the site. So this is one of the reasons why every user is assigned to the sites that are going to be entering records, so that you can actually filter by site. So if the record resides in Portsmouth, for instance, and you decide that, or you forget to change from Roseau to Portsmouth and you record, it is going to be under Roseau record. It's not going to be under Portsmouth, so you won't find it there. So it's the sites of the users have to be updated when there's a rotation. Okay. Anybody with question? All right. So we have also the pending care registration. This is another supervisory functionality where you will see a list of those who were confirmed positive for both HIV, for TB, and for syphilis and other prevention services who were referred and they are still not yet registered in care. If there is a rule or there's a time frame to say you want it to be 3 days between confirmation and care registration, this is the point where you can see the month and year of referral. And then you can call whoever did the referral to follow up to find out why this person is still not in care, right? So this is part of the elimination goal, where you want to make sure they get in care as soon as there is a positive or a confirmed positive. And so you want to keep following up with the person who referred to track the people they referred. I don't know how it's done within countries, but I know most times you want to let one person deal with a particular client. The person they dealt with, the person who broke the news of their positivity, who confirmed to them they're positive, should do the tracking and follow up to avoid that panic of everybody knows and I'm running away. Okay. So the referred by here will give you the name of the person who did the referral. So you always want the person who did the counseling or spoke to the client to do the referral so that the tracking will be easier. Then the same thing for TB and other services. If somebody is referred for PrEP and the person is not yet registered for that service, you will find it here and you can do your supervisory function and tracking. So it makes it easy for you instead of going to look through each record one by one and see this person is positive on this file from the lab. Let's see, does the person have any IDC record? This makes it easier. You also want to look at all the clients in care. Here you can have a list, export, delete, know the total number of people you have in care. You can see it on a table here, the month and the year that they are in care. This is not a surveillance report. This is just for you to supervise and just get an overview of things. If you just want to like maybe you want to answer some questions or you have a conference, you can say, I have 100 people in care. This is only accurate if the records in the country are all entered. If you have records on paper and you have records on the system, remember that what is on the system is not a true reflection of the entire country because some sites are using paper. So you have to take what is on the system and add it to what you have on paper. So we have can get all HIV screenings. You can look at all of the list of HIV screenings until we do module 4, where we do all of the hands-on. You will not see anything on the list, but for people that have access to their live system, you will find things on the list. You will have get all TB screenings. So all of this supervisory functionality does not expose patient identity. You see unique ID is the only thing you see. Whatever identifies people are not displayed on the page for anyone to see. The only thing that is displayed is the recorded by, so that you can see the name of the person as a supervisor, the name of your staff as a supervisor that did that record in the event you need to make reference to it or follow up with them on anything that needs follow-up. Yeah. So you can get all HIV, get all TB, get all syphilis, get other screenings, Hep B, CBC, any other screening that was done. Here, you'll find it there. This results button will give you any file that is uploaded. You can click on it to view the file. And then you can also get all antenatal screenings. So if you recorded HIV screening for someone who is registered for antenatal, then you can get all HIV ANC screenings for HIV, for tuberculosis, for syphilis, for hepatitis, and every other ANC screenings that are done. So we'll also look at the antenatal part next week. So we'll have the exposed infant HIV screenings also, where you can look at all the screenings for the exposed infants. This is based on the form that some of you sent on what you report, how you report I think for AMTCT. And then you can also look at the exposed infant registration information that links the infant's unique ID to the mother's unique ID. You look at the date of birth of the infant, the sex, and the exposure if it's mother to child transmission. If it's a child that was not exposed at birth, but there's another mode of exposure or transmission, you put it here, and the date the person was registered into care. Then we have also, it will display here based on what is entered during the exposed infant registration. So you don't even need to enter information here, you just see what has been entered. So prevention distributions, when you need to get the total number of condoms that were distributed, total number of self-test kits, anything you give out has prevention service and is recorded on the system. You will see the site here, the number of female condoms, number of male condoms distributed. So if you need any of this for reporting or for tracking or for accountability, this is where you find that record when it's entered. Anybody with a question? Okay, now there's another permission, which is the history tracking. And this is just to track screening history of a client, pregnancy history, and address change history. So if, for instance, this might not even come in useful so frequently or in the nearest future, but when it does come useful, you have it. If you want to see maybe a client says they've been screened for HIV or anything before, and they can't tell you what the result is, the address of site, especially for a positive client who said they've been tested before, they were positive at the site. We ask them what is done, they can't give information. And if they have records on the system, you can enter the unique ID to give you all of these different sites that they were screened, both rapid and confirmatory tests, and you will get it by entering the unique ID there. Also, for pregnancy history, if a pregnant client walks in, the client has been maybe to other sites for the antenatal, they were living somewhere different, and they come in with a new pregnancy, and you register that pregnancy. You just want to get a record of all the pregnancy histories, especially for a positive client. You want to see if they had registered for pregnancy on the system, and if you can get information about the exposure of the other children. This is where you do that. And then we track client's address change history. This is the one that might not be useful now, but in the event of an epidemic, you want to know why the north used to have high incidence, but now the south has high incidence. If there's like an address change, there's a lot of migration from north to south, and there's this spread by movement. This is where you check address change history of clients to see if the migration from one part to another is the cause of the high incidence in one part all of a sudden. So these are the functionalities for the administration rule that are permission controlled. The last functionality, which is how to upload offline templates, how to download and upload offline information, is the one we're going to handle tomorrow, and that is the only functionality of the administration rule that is not permission controlled. Anybody who is assigned the admin rule has access to upload offline data. Now, the reason we did not allow this offline data upload for everybody and every user in every site is you need it to be validated that these records are entered as you want them completely, important information are entered, and then you want to update and look at the error messages and make sure that if it tells you that the first line of information is not accepted by the system, so maybe you have 100 rows of record on that sheet and you upload and it tells you that row 88 is not accepted and the others are updated, you take note of that and it tells you exactly what the error is. Maybe they skipped out entering something like the rapid test results or something, and then you take note of that particular row is not updated for a particular reason, and so you can call the person who sent the sheet. So this is the remedy for outreach where there is no network, or in the events where you have no internet on the site, and this only deals with screenings, not clinical management. There's no internet on the site and they want to enter their records. So they can download the offline template. It will come out as Excel spreadsheet. The system will only accept records or templates that is downloaded from the system. If you create one template out of the system, even if it has the same field, the system will not accept it. So we'll look at that in details tomorrow. And these are all the functionalities for the administration role. So anybody has question?
It's good. I guess until we start using it and you're engaging it, maybe little things will come up, but now I think it's pretty clear as well.
Okay, so for everyone here, you can actually log on to your pilot site within country and try them out, try the different permissions out. I think you all have, all the supervisors, you all have the test user that you can log on with and create your own account. Practice this out so you can have questions when we come back tomorrow. So for those of you who attended this session, you don't need to be here from 1 to 4, and you also don't need to be here on Wednesday, but you need to be here either tomorrow 9 to 12 or 1 to 4 or Thursday 9 to 12. All right, so thank you everyone and have a blessed rest of the day.
Thank you, Mildred.
Thank you, Mildred.